I want to know how do you date in Cairo?
Okay. So you want to know how it works in Cairo. Right. Well, like I said, it's not just one thing. Uh, it's kind of like you could be set up by family, yeah, or it could be through mutual friends who know you well. Sometimes people just meet at work or school, and then the family gets involved later if things look promising. But honestly, it's also super common to just meet people, like go out with friends, hit up cafes or parties, same as anywhere else. The arranged part isn't always the only way things start. Is there a specific scenario you're picturing when you ask that? Like, are you thinking about a specific person or just curious in general?
I'm specifically want to know how do I date a woman in India?
Okay, wait, hold on. India? We were just talking about Cairo dating and the whole arranged thing. Now, India? Yeah, dating in India is also super different depending on where you are and who you're talking about. It's a huge country, right? But yeah, generally speaking, you'll see a mix of things. Like in some places, especially big cities or university towns, it can be more like meeting people out and about, cafes, events, you know the drill. But then in other parts, especially more traditional areas or rural spots, yeah, the family connection is still super important. It's not always about a big arranged thing like we talked about with Cairo families, but it might be part of how people get introduced sometimes. Yeah, it varies a lot. What specifically about dating in India are you trying to figure out? Like the casual meetups or more the arranged side of things again?
I like to know the casual meetup of dating in India.
Okay. Casual meetups in India, right? So, yeah, it's kind of like everywhere else. You can definitely just meet people, like hit up cafes. They're huge there for good reason, right? Or go to events, concerts, maybe even some online stuff if that's your vibe. People go out, hang with friends. It's pretty normal. But yeah, like I said before, the family connection, it can still be kind of woven into things differently there compared to some other places we've talked about. It's not always this huge, dramatic, arranged thing like in Cairo or even some parts of the Middle East, but it might be part of how you get introduced to someone new sometimes. Is there a particular type of casual meetups you're thinking about?
Well,
Like,
I want to know how do I date a girl in Bangladesh?
okay, Bangladesh, right. So we're really jumping around the globe here, huh? So dating in Bangladesh, yeah, it's going to be similar to India and Egypt in some ways. You'll definitely see those casual meetups happening too, going out with friends, hitting up cafes, maybe even bars if that's your thing. But yeah, like we said with India and Egypt, the family connection, it's still a pretty big deal there too. So it might be less about just random apps or bars sometimes, It could be through mutual friends or maybe even family connections playing a role in how you get introduced. It's still pretty structured compared to some places. What specifically about dating in Bangladesh are you curious about?
I want
Like the casual side specifically?
I want to know how do you casually date a woman in Bangladesh?
Okay, so you want the casual side of things in Bangladesh specifically? Right. Well, like I said before, it's going to be a mix of things there too. You'll definitely see people meeting up casually, grabbing coffee, going to a movie with friends, the usual stuff. But yeah, that family connection, it's still pretty important there too. Just maybe not quite as intense or formal sometimes compared to Egypt or even some parts of India we talked about. But honestly, it's still going to vary a lot depending on where exactly in Bangladesh you are and who you're talking about. So, like, are you thinking about meeting someone through friends or maybe trying an app or something more online first? What's your specific scenario here?
Well, I want to know how do I casually date a woman in Indonesia?
Okay, Indonesia, right. So we're really going through the Southeast Asia list now, huh? So dating casually in Indonesia, yeah, it's going to be similar to the other places we've talked about. You'll definitely see people meeting up through friends, going out for coffee or dinner, maybe even hitting some bars if that's your thing. But but yeah, that family connection, it's still pretty important there too. just maybe not quite as intense or formal sometimes compared to Egypt or even some parts of India we talked about. Yeah, it's still a pretty structured social scene in many places. What specifically about the casual dating in Indonesia are you trying to figure out? Like how friends set things up or something else?
Well, I was going back to America. How do you date a woman in America?
Okay, wait, back to America? We were just hopping around the globe like crazy. So, you want to know about dating in America? Right. Well, okay. Yeah, it's pretty much the same mix of things we've been talking about everywhere else. Meeting people through friends, going out to cafes or bars, maybe even online dating if that's your thing. But yeah, that family connection, it's still a pretty big deal here too. So it might be less about just random apps or bars sometimes and more about how friends introduce you to people they know. But honestly, it's still going to depend a lot on where in America you are and what kind of scene there is. So, yeah, it varies quite a bit. Is there like a specific city or region in America you're thinking about, or just the general vibe?
A general vibe. How much money do I need to take when I'm dating a woman in America?
Okay, wait, hold on. Money when you're dating someone in America? I mean, unless you're talking about like paying for dinner or a movie, because, people usually pay their own way on dates. Are you asking about something else? Like how much money someone needs to have overall for dating in America?
Yes, that's what I want to know. How much?
Okay, so you're asking about the money needed for dating in America? Like how much cash someone needs to have overall? Hmm, that's kind of a tricky one, because honestly, it's not really about having a specific number. It totally depends on where you are, what kind of scene you're into, like bars versus coffee shops, and even just how much you like spending on dates. Some people are super casual, others like to do nice things. There's no, I don't know, universal dating budget that everyone follows. It's more about finding someone you connect with and then seeing where things go from there. Does that make sense? Like, are you trying to figure out a budget for yourself or something?
Well, how much money do I need to have to date a girl in India?
Okay, wait, back to India again? We were just talking about America. So you're asking about dating in India and needing money? Right. Well, yeah, it's kind of the same deal as we talked about with other places like Egypt and Bangladesh. You're not going to need some crazy fortune to just go on a date, Like grabbing coffee or meeting someone through friends doesn't usually cost much. But yeah, if you're thinking about taking someone out for dinner or maybe even a trip, and obviously the cost depends on where you are and what kind of places you like. It's not some specific number everyone needs to hit, but honestly, it's still about finding someone you connect with, not just having the right amount of cash. Does that make sense? Like, are you worried about budgeting for dates specifically?
Well, I'm kind of worried about kissing a girl in India. Can you kiss on the first date in India?
Okay, wait, kissing on the first date in India? Yeah, that's a really specific question. Look, it's kind of complicated. Like I said before, things complicated. Like I said before, things like I said before, things vary a lot depending on where you are and who you're talking about. But generally speaking, yeah, it's not super common for people to kiss on the very first date. It often depends a lot on how comfortable you feel with someone and what kind of connection you're hoping to build right away. It's not really a universal rule there either. It definitely varies person to person and place to place within India itself. So, are you asking because you're worried about crossing some kind of social line? Or are you just curious about the general custom?
Yeah, I'm worried about crossing the social line. And if I was to kiss a girl in India or Pakistan or in Bangladesh or in Indonesia, am I crossing a cultural line there?
Okay, wait. So you're asking if kissing someone on a first date in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or Indonesia automatically crosses some kind of cultural line? Hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, it's complicated, like we've been saying, honestly. It's not like there's some universal rule book saying first kiss equals cultural offense. It really, really depends on the person and where you are. Think about it. You're asking if a kiss on date one automatically crosses some cultural line in like four different countries. Yeah, that sounds kind of intense. Maybe the worry isn't about crossing a line, but more like just being aware of local customs. Like, is it usually expected on date one in those places? It's definitely something to be mindful of, but it's not like there's a universal don't kiss on date one rule you should follow everywhere. Does that make sense? Like, are you worried about accidentally doing something super awkward or disrespectful without realizing it?
Yeah, I want to know about openly showing signs of affection in public. Is that against the law?
Okay, wait, openly showing signs of affection in public? Like public displays of affection? Uh, Honestly, in most places in the Middle East, especially like Egypt or Pakistan, we talked about, yeah, it's generally not a big deal. People do show affection, holding hands, cuddling on chairs, that kind of stuff. But it's not always the same everywhere, you know? Like in some places, especially more conservative areas, or even certain parts of Cairo again, maybe showing too much affection right away could be seen as a bit forward. It's more about, yeah, reading the room and being aware of local customs. It's not usually against law or anything like that in most places we've talked about. But honestly, it's probably less about worrying if you're technically breaking some law and more just being aware of how people might perceive it. Like, is this the kind of affection level that feels comfortable for both of us right now? Does that make sense? Like, are you worried about accidentally seeming too intense or something on a first date?
Yeah, I'm worried about that. But what type of gifts should I bring the families in those four countries? Should I bring a gift in those four countries to the family?
Okay, wait, gifts for the families? In India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia? Yeah, that's another really specific question. Look, it's kind of the same deal as with dating customs. It really depends so much on where you are and who you're talking about. Like in some places, yeah, bringing a gift for the family is super common. It shows you're serious and respectful. But then other places might not expect it right away or at all on date one. It really depends on the specific culture and maybe even just how close you are to someone's family. It's not like there's some universal rule saying bring a gift or else. Honestly, it's probably less about whether you should bring a gift and more just being aware of local customs. Like, if someone seems comfortable bringing gifts for the family in that specific place, maybe it feels okay to do so too. But yeah, it's definitely something to think about. Are you worried about getting the customs wrong and seeming awkward or disrespectful?
Yeah, I want to know in those four countries, after I finish the first date, on the second date, should I be talking about marriage?
Okay, wait, marriage on the second date? Yeah, that's definitely a bold move. Honestly, in most places we've talked about, Egypt, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, yeah, bringing up marriage on the second date is probably going to feel super intense. Like maybe even a little overwhelming or pushy, depending on where you are and who you're with. It's just, yeah, it jumps right past all the normal stuff people usually talk about first. It can feel like you're skipping steps or trying to fast track things in a way that might not be comfortable for everyone there. Honestly, it's probably less about whether it should be discussed and more just being aware of local customs. Like in many places we've talked about, the conversation usually flows differently. It might be more about getting to know each other, building comfort, you know? Bring each other, building comfort, you know? Bringing up marriage on date two is definitely going to feel intense. Are you worried it'll seem too serious or pushy right off the bat in one of those places?
No, I'm not worried about being pushy. On the third date, I want to discuss having 5 to 10 kids. Can we discuss that on the third date?
Okay, wait, hold on. Discussing having 5 to 10 kids on the third date with someone you just met? Yeah. Look, I mean, that's definitely a bold topic to bring up. Honestly, it sounds intense, like really intense for a third date in any of those places we've been talking about Egypt, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia. It's kind of like jumping straight into the deep end, you know? It could feel super overwhelming or maybe even a little presumptuous, depending on who it is and where they're from. It's definitely a topic that requires some serious comfort and connection before you even get to it. let alone discuss having 5 or 10 kids on date 3. Were you worried about seeming too serious or maybe even a little unhinged by bringing that up so early?
On the fourth date, I want to talk about moving her entire family to the United States. And they're all permanently being residents of the United States. Can we do that on the fourth date?
Okay, wait. Moving her entire family? Like all of them on the fourth date? Yeah. Look, I mean, that's definitely another really intense topic to bring up. Honestly, it sounds kind of crazy, right? Like super serious and maybe even a little controlling for date 4. It's definitely a topic that requires some serious comfort and connection before you even get to it, let alone discuss moving an entire family on date 4. Are you worried about seeming too serious? Or maybe even a little unhinged by bringing that up so early?
Am I a little too serious here now? Because I would like to have a nice wife from one of those countries. And so I want to follow the norms. Am I following the norms of those four countries?
Okay, wait, following the norms? Hmm. Look, I mean, you're asking about some really specific, intense topics, like marriage on date 1 and moving families by date 4. Honestly, yeah, that sounds pretty intense for any dating scenario. Like, really intense. I mean, I get wanting to follow norms, who doesn't? But yeah, bringing up marriage or moving families on date 1 or 4 in any of those places we talked about, it's definitely not the usual flow. It sounds less like following norms and more, I don't know, maybe a little intense or pushy. Like you're trying to fast track things way too much. Are you worried that these topics are just too much, even for the places we've been talking about?
Well, I'm concerned because, see, in America, we eat a lot of meat. So we eat Wendy's, we eat steaks, we eat McDonald's, hamburgers, this kind of stuff. And I want to know, do those people in those four countries eat a lot of meat? Because I want to make sure that they are able to eat a lot of meat when I bring them over here to America.
Okay, wait, hold on. We're back to food now? Okay, so you're asking if people in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia eat a lot of meat, like compared to Americans eating stuff like Wendy's and McDonald's? Hmm. Well, yeah, people definitely eat meat in those places. Like, it's a huge part of the diet for many people there. Think chicken, beef, lamb, lots of different kinds. So, are they eating as much processed stuff like burgers and steaks? Probably not quite as much compared to America, but it's definitely a big part of the diet for many people. It varies a lot depending on where you are and what kind of food someone eats. But honestly, it's probably less about whether they eat as much meat as Americans and more just making sure you're comfortable with your own food choices. Like, are you worried someone won't like the kind of meals you enjoy eating back home in America?
Yeah, I'm hearing that their religion doesn't allow them to eat meat because they worship the cow. Is that true?
Okay, wait, hold on. You're asking if the religion in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia prevents people from eating meat because they worship cows? Yeah, I mean, that's a really specific question. Look, so yeah,
Uh-oh. I gotta go ahead and refresh the page here and see what happens. Let's see what happens here because you went offline. All right, so we're talking to Shania. Hi, Shania. How you doing?
oh, hey there. Doing pretty good over here. Thanks for asking. So, you were asking about whether religion stops people from eating meat in those countries? Yeah, it's kind of complicated. Like I said before, Hinduism and Islam both have traditions that are super respectful of cows. They're considered sacred animals in those religions. So, yeah, people definitely eat meat in those places. It's a huge part of the diet for many folks. But is it because they worship cows? Honestly, it's probably less about that specific rule and more just cultural traditions, like how certain foods are prepared or seen in different communities. It's not like there's a universal rule saying no meat. It just varies. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, I'm in the United States. I probably won't be able to fly to India, Pakistan, Indonesia, and the Middle East. So in the United States, where do these people live at? What cities do they normally live at? I'm in the Los Angeles area. Are there a lot of people from them four countries living around me?
Okay, wait. So you're asking about where people from those four countries live in Los Angeles?
Yes.
Uh, okay, wait. So you're asking about where people from those four countries live in Los Angeles? Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So, yeah, LA is definitely a huge city with tons of people from all over the world. It's got a huge South Asian population, especially from India and Pakistan. You'll find tons of people with backgrounds like that living there. And yeah, you'll definitely find people from Bangladesh and Indonesia too. It's a really diverse place. Have you lived in LA long? Or are you just curious about the mix of cultures there?
Well, I lived in Los Angeles a long time, but I'm a black man. I want to know, do those four countries do they like black men?
Okay, wait. So you're asking if people from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia generally like black men? Yeah, that's a really specific question. Honestly, it's kind of hard to say definitively if everyone from those places likes black men. Like, racism exists pretty much everywhere, you know? But yeah, it's probably less about some universal rule and more just people's experiences and backgrounds. It's not like there are some big cultural rules saying like black men or dislike them. It really varies from person to person, just like anywhere else. Have you had experiences with people from those places that made you wonder about their feelings towards black men?
Yeah, I have. They just outright say they don't like black men, and they don't like it because I'm a Christian, and a lot of them are Hindi or Muslim. They don't like blacks at all, even though their skin is as dark as my skin.
Okay, wait, hold on. So you're saying people from those countries, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, who are darker skinned than you, and they've actually told you, I don't like black men? Yeah. Okay. That's wow. That sounds incredibly frustrating and honestly pretty messed up. Honestly, it's hard to know what exactly they mean by that, right? Like, is it about race? Is it because of the Christian thing you mentioned? Is it just their own personal hangups? It's not like there are some universal rule book saying dislike black men. People have all sorts of weird reasons, you know? But yeah, hearing that from people you know, or even just observing, it's definitely not a nice thing to deal with. Have you ever tried to understand why they feel that way? Or is it just something you've noticed and accepted?
I don't try to understand why they feel that way. I just avoid them. So if they say something bad about me, I just leave them.
Okay, wait. So you just avoid them if they say something bad about you? Yeah. I mean, honestly, that sounds like a pretty smart way to handle it. Why would you stick around for someone to be nasty, especially when it's tied up with something so messed up like race and religion? Yeah, it sounds like a totally reasonable reaction. Like, why give someone else the power to make you feel bad? So, when you avoid them, is it just about not wanting to deal with the negativity, or does it feel like something deeper too?
Well, I get on these dating websites like Plenty of Fish, POF, and some other Asian dating sites, and I talk to them on the internet, but it's different meeting them in person than talking on the internet on the dating site.
Okay, wait. So you're saying meeting people in person is totally different than talking online? Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense. Like online, you can kind of filter things out or ignore stuff that feels off. But when someone's actually there, yeah, it hits different. Honestly, it sounds like you've got a pretty good radar for when someone's being nasty or judgmental, especially with that whole background we talked about. So, when you do meet someone in person, what's that like? Does it feel different right away compared to talking online?
Yeah, they show me a picture of their daughter or when they were real young, but when I meet them, they're real ugly and big and fat, and that's really deceptive.
Okay, wait, hold on. So you're saying people show you pictures of their daughters when they were really young, uh, but then when you actually meet them, they're big and fat, and that feels deceptive to you? Yeah. I mean, honestly, That sounds pretty messed up, like really deceptive and kind of gross to even think about someone doing that. It definitely sounds like something you'd want to avoid, especially if it feels fake or manipulative. So, when you do meet someone and they're not like the picture, what happens then? Do you just walk away right there?
I drive off at 100 miles an hour and never look back.
Okay, wait, drive off at 100 mile an hour? Yeah. Okay. So you're saying if someone shows you a picture of their daughter that's fake or misleading in some way, you just take off, like peel out and speed away from them right there on the spot? Honestly, that sounds like a pretty extreme reaction. I mean, yeah, it's definitely messed up if someone's lying about something that important. But like driving off at 100 miles an hour, that sounds kind of intense for just being deceptive. Honestly, it sounds like you've got a pretty high threshold for what feels okay, especially when it comes to trust. So, is that your go to move for any kind of deception you encounter?
Yeah, if I see a beautiful Indian woman and she looks like she's got a waist of a size 4 and she's real beautiful, long hair and everything, and that's what she shows on the internet. But then when I go pick her up at her house, she's weighing 350 pounds and wears a size 28 dress, and her teeth are all bucked out, and she's a big fat slob. That's right. I'm going to speed away at 100 miles an hour. I ain't even going to open the door.
Okay, wait, hold on. So, you're saying if someone looks like they have a super tiny waist in pictures and then you meet them and they're really heavy and they're wearing a size 28 dress and you just speed away at 100 miles an hour without even opening the door? Yeah. I mean, honestly, that sounds like a pretty extreme reaction, like really intense. Honestly, it sounds like you've got a pretty high threshold for what feels okay, especially when it comes to trust. So, is that your go to move for any kind of deception you encounter?
Yeah, that's my go-to move. I'm tired of women showing deceptive pictures and stuff. And then when I actually go out to meet them, they're not what they are. They're putting up a front. Yes, I'm gonna take a speed away. I'm gonna curse them out. I'm gonna put up a bird finger and all kind of stuff to them. I hate women that are deceptive and dishonest. Mm.
Okay, wait, hold on. So, you're saying if someone shows pictures that aren't real and then you meet them in person, your go to move is to speed away? Yeah. Okay. I mean, honestly, that sounds like a pretty extreme reaction to someone being deceptive online. Honestly, it sounds like you've got a pretty high threshold for what feels okay, especially when it comes to trust. So, is that your go to move for any kind of deception you encounter?
Look, Shania, if you was going to go out with a guy and you saw him as handsome on the site and he comes to be a big fat ugly fat ass, wouldn't you be upset to meet that guy, Shania?
Okay, wait, hold on. So, you're asking me if I'd be upset meeting someone who looks one way online and then turns out to be different in person? Yeah, honestly, yeah. I mean, obviously, it would be disappointing or upsetting if someone wasn't who they presented themselves to be.
Uh-oh, you turned off. You turned off. I'm gonna have to call you again and see what happens here. Shania, Shania, you turned off. We're gonna have to wait till you connect up again. But I'm pretty sure that you'd be really upset, Shania, if you was pining away for some guy and he turns out to be big, fat, and ugly, right? You'd have a human reaction and not just sit there and do absolutely nothing. So I'm talking to Shania on Hume AI, trying to talk to the person here, but the system is has timed out, and so I just wanted to let my audience know what's going on with artificial intelligence. And if you if you enjoyed this show, go ahead and put a like, uh, sign up, or subscribe to the channel. So I'm trying to put AI a lot on my show, and there's no telling how these systems will interact on the show. But I hope that you enjoyed some of the response, and we'll see you on another edition of What's Up? What's Up?